Retopology. You probably came here because you're either completely new to this topic, or you're stuck because you already know this, but have no f***ing clue on when and how to use it. But let me tell you, retopology is actually pretty simple. There is only one set of shapes from which everything is composed. And once you know the magic behind them, you know how to retopologize everything. We will cover the basics, tools, the setup, edge flow, patterns, vertex smoothing and many tricks. I guarantee you, this is the last video you will need. I know you're in a hurry, so let's take 10 seconds to explain. Why should you retopologize? Simply to gain performance. Whether you want to sculpt fine details, animate, or just export your model for a game engine, your computer is not ready to work with millions of polys. There are many tools available for retopology, for example Quad Remesher, which automates the process, but is not useful when you actually care about a good result. You should definitely retopologize manually. The algorithms are not there yet to produce a perfect low poly version of your 3D model. For manual retopology, there are tools like Retopoflow, eSurfaces and many more. But no tool will help you when you don't understand the concepts of shapes and patterns I will show you in a moment. We will stick to the good old plain Blender way, since this will always work, even if all add-ons fail. First, we have to set up some stuff. Create a backup of your model with a press and Shift D and move it to a collection that you will disable. Now use the decimate modifier to lower the poly count for a better performance while retopologizing. I will go with a ratio of 0.1 to reduce my poly count from 2 million to about 300k. And don't forget to apply the modifier. And since you have to retopologize piece by piece, I will hide all but the body. Now we need a plane, scale it down and move it close to the location where we want to start. Add a shrink wrap modifier and set the following settings. Turn on snap with face project and turn on these two checkboxes. In edit mode, activate this button to see the result. And if your model is mirrored, add a mirror modifier with clipping turned on. In order to see our mesh better, let's create a new material, scroll down and set another color for the viewport. You can now move, extrude and duplicate the vertices to retopologize your mesh. And if needed, you can turn on auto merge nearby vertices, but I personally don't like it. By the way, there is a link in the video description for a tutorial for this model. Okay, and now? What do we do first? I always imagine how I would draw my model. The lines I would draw define my edge flow. And the edge flow defines the topology islands. And the islands define the main features of your model. They will later be connected to each other. When you do your first line of quads, always think about edge loops. They can tell you if your topology is good or bad. Good topology allows you to add loop cuts to increase detail on parts where needed, without affecting other parts. Look at this example. I can easily add as many loops as I want to increase the detail. Other than here, a loop cut will add polys everywhere. And talking about quads and loop cuts, as in sculpting, it is important to start with as little quads as possible. This makes things way easier. And when you ask, why quads? Because you cannot add loop cuts when you have triangles. Okay, but how do I retopologize now? Start with different lines and islands and connect them. Easy, huh? Okay, not so much. But you're lucky that all models always consist of the same limited number of shapes. Learn to retopologize them and you will be able to retopologize everything. And what also helped me the most was watching videos about the whole retopology process from others. You're lucky that I upload all my videos on Patreon. There you can find all uncut videos of all my projects and get access to the Blender project file to inspect it in detail. So help yourself to learn by supporting me. Let's look at the picture you saw in the intro. Everyone who googled retopology already knows it. But when do you really need it? Not now at least. What no one explained to you is that these patterns are only useful when you connect topology islands. So back to simple forms. The first shape we will look at is a circle. This is how you fill a circle with 6 edges to retain nice loop cuts. One with 8, one with 10, and so on. And guess what? A circle is the cap of a cylinder. And when you raise the middle faces of the circle, Suddenly, you know how to retopologize complex shapes like fingers. And always make sure to have an even number of edges. You can extrude a whole loop, but you have to turn off snapping. Otherwise, you end up with this. And don't worry about smoothing. The topology can be as ugly as a girlfriend. As we started with a low number of quads, we can now add edge loops for a better topology. The third and last shape is a rectangle, which can be filled by loop cutting in both directions. And the rectangle is, as a cylinder, just a filler.
So a rectangle is a cylinder?
No, it's a circle. Okay, I'm not telling you that a 3D model only consists of cubes and circles, but every part could be broken down into these two shapes, which can be created as separate topology islands, allowing you to increase the detail with loop cuts without interfering with the rest of your mesh, and which can be extended from one shape to another, like the circle rectangle loops into a body cylinder. And finally to the widely known pattern. You can now go watch other retopology videos, since you find it everywhere. Jokes aside, I told you, you don't need other tutorials after this one. Now we can utilize this pattern to connect the islands. Here we have 4 islands for the fingers and a simple cylinder on the hand, but the fingers have 4 by 8, so 32 edges. And the hand has 18. So first we connect the finger islands, taking loop cuts in consideration. Now we have a nice loop cut going through the center of all fingers. Then we apply the 42 pattern with an eye on the loop cuts. Let's close the first loop and look at our edge count. 26, 8 more to go, but this is up to you. You can also use the patterns to add more topology to certain parts, like elbows or knees, using the knife tool. This is especially useful for animation. More topology means smoother deformation. Cut and smooth. But before I show you how to smooth your mesh and make beautiful topology, let's look at some other examples. This is not a clown, but the different topology islands on the head and the back of my 3D model. Islands everywhere, even in the mouth. Islands upon islands, and even islands within islands. And these are somehow connected to each other by using the patterns. And I can add more details everywhere by adding loop cuts without affecting the topology in any other place. And if I cannot do that, I let the loop run into the void. Okay, now we know how to create topology islands and connect them. In other words, how to make ugly topology. We need a way to smooth it. The first thing you need is an add-on called Loop Tools. If you don't already have it, go to Preferences, Add-ons and activate it. To use Loop Tools, you have to go in Edit mode, press N on your keyboard, go to Edit and expand Loop Tools. Loop Tools has a useful feature called Space, which evens out the space between your vertices, which is often the first step you do. Let's smooth the torso. First, I will apply the shrink wrap modifier and edit again. Why? Because everything we use to smooth the police works before the modifiers. When I space the words on the bottom, they look odd. But when I turn off the shrink wrap modifier, it actually is correct. Let's bring the bottom in shape, then space the bottom loop, the center on the back, space the top loop, the center line on the front, then press A to select all and deselect all words we just spaced. Click on Vertex on the top and smooth vertices. Play with the settings on the bottom left corner. And you have a beautiful topology. Let's continue with the hand. Reapply the shrink wrap modifier, space out the upper loop, select the rest, click Vertex, smooth vertices, play with the settings, and you're done. Simple as that. This should be all you have to know in terms of retopology. If you have any questions, just leave a comment.